I am Del Hamilton. I'm formerly the artistic director.
And co-founder. My name is Faye Allen. Along with Del, I'm the co-founder. And for the 35 years that we ran the theater, I was producing director, I was an actor. And then in maybe the last 10 to 15 years, I've sort of morphed over into more set design. And so I've designed Waiting for Godot. This is my second time to design Waiting for Godot. I met Del Hamilton in the fall of 1978. And he had previously been the artistic director of the theatrical outfit, and that was sort of closing, and we decided that we would go ahead and make a new theater, another theater. And so we did, and we looked around the town and found this particular area, Little Five Points, and it was rather derelict at the time, underdeveloped, and we sort of considered ourselves urban pioneers. There was only a few shops open. And anyway, we first began on Moreland Avenue, in a little shop, which was the storefront. And we were very happy with that space for a really long time, and we would extend the space by using outside, because it had storefront windows, and we could set up lights and cameras and things outside, so it extended the performing area. And we did lots of major productions there, including My Mother's Courage, which is really a very, very large production and should be done in a big theater. But we managed to do it. And we've done, I don't know how many world premieres and US premieres, and we've worked all over the world, and have been, I think, very successful for a small theater. I mean, we're well known and well respected. And so in 1987, this building became available, and we moved here. And this is where we've been ever since.
There was a group of 13 Quakers who took over the Little Five Points pub up at the corner of Euclid and McClendon, Euclid and Moreland, and so they had a plan that they were all going to open these storefronts and make it a viable neighborhood, and within a couple of years after we opened, it was that, and so we Seven Stages managed to attract a lot of other theater companies and musicians and poets and writers, and Little Five Points quickly became the alternative arts district. And we set ourselves up deliberately to be an alternative to the Alliance Theater and all that means.
Wow. So you guys' partnership, how did that happen? How did you guys, why did you decide to partner?
Well, we were both in theater. I'd been working with a theater called Open City Theater, and Del's theater had actually taken over the space that I used to work in, and that's how we first met.
This was a theatrical outfit.
Yeah, which was in Virginia Highlands at the time. And so we met, and then we thought, well, why don't we, make our own theater? And we were looking in Virginia Highlands, but if you can believe this now, Virginia Highlands was so run down, it was worse than Little Five Points. They wanted to rent us a building that had a big hole in the roof that we had to fix, so we thought, that's probably not a good deal.
Wow. So when you guys decided to move to this area, were you funded by anybody, or how did you get this going?
No, we didn't know anything about that in those days. All we knew is we wanted to start a theater. There was a group of people who were with us. So we said, well, there aren't any theaters that we know about. There was this theater and the one next to it, which were just large storage dumps for 20 years before the neighborhood developed. So we said, well, let's get a storefront. They do that in Europe, why not? And so we looked around Little Five Points and found a very favorable deal for the place up on Moreland Avenue, and that's more or less how we got started. It was a storefront theater that was easy enough to fix up, and every time we did a production, we completely renovated the inside of the theater, including seating. And that was a real challenge 5 times a year for the first 3 or 4 years.
Wow, that's what I was kind of getting to. Like, you guys did your own renovations. You kind of did a do-it-yourself.
Yeah.
Well, we hired professionals as well. I mean,
We did?
yeah, don't you remember?
Okay.
I mean, we're not. I mean, I can hammer in a nail, but I mean, I'm not a carpenter or anything like that. So we hired neighborhood construction guys, and they helped us.
Now, I know a lot of times, if people not, if roles aren't clear, then there could be some confusion or tension between partners, and it can, even sabotage a partnership. Like, did you guys know going into it that that you would do one thing and this partner would do a different thing? Do you have established roles for yourself?
Well, at the beginning, we did everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my favorite stories is the story of playing Seduced. by Sam Shepard, which is the play about Howard Hughes. And Del played Howard Hughes, and I was the box office person, I was the stage manager, and I was also one of the lead actors. And so I'd get into the theater early, and I would put on I had these white satin high heels and this beautiful dress with a little skirt, here, and it was very, very, like, formal wear. And so I would run over to the liquor store in that outfit and buy case of beer, and so we could sell at intermission. And then I would take the tickets, sell the tickets. As soon as everybody was in the house, I'd run out, because there was a back door, I'd run around the corner and in the front door, and they go, okay, we can start now. So, it was like that. We did everything we had to do together to make it work, and it worked out, and we found sort of, Del is a very, very strong director, and I was sort of better in stage management and that sort of stuff, so we kind of worked in those areas, but we were both performers as well.
When we started out, we didn't really have specifically defined roles, and in those days, it was not too long after the whole nonprofit arts movement started in the 60s before we started our theater, so nobody really knew how do you set up roles of responsibility in nonprofit. That was all news to everybody, and we were figuring it out along with our peers and colleagues in the other arts, part of the arts industry, and finally, more or less reluctantly, we got these roles because I was the artistic director, Faye was the producing director, because the funding agencies needed to know that you had titles in order to legitimately give us money, instead of just a group of bozos who lived in little 5 Points. So we took on titles, and we gave everybody else titles like actor, director, and those things, and people bought us.
Yeah.